Despite being a niche genre, visual novels are absolutely everywhere on the Nintendo Switch, seemingly the perfect portable device for all your narrative-based adventures. There's well over 200 visual novels on the Switch, at least at the point I stopped counting, and here we have gathered every single visual novel on the Switch that is actually worth your time, because there's a lot of nonsense out there. Fans can note down, reference, and hopefully find their next story to dig into. We've also given each game in this list a star rating out of 5, but just to be clear, just because it gets 1 star does not mean it's a bad game. Every game in this list is worth your time, but we wanted to, tier them up a little bit because, some are nice time wasters, some are masterpieces. We wanted to separate them just a little bit. But if they're on this list, they are worth your time. Please remember that 1 star does not mean bad. Big thanks to Miguel Marin, as always, for his input here, helping to write and research this list with myself. And myself, Juan and James, are going to take you through it. This video is sponsored by the fine people at One Print Games. One Print Games is an independent game publisher specializing in making physical versions of your favorite indie games. They publish classics such as It'll Do, Kero Blaster, and Death Squared. They are well into their second series of games, each with their own flavor of visual novel elements. Their taxi adventure game NeoCab is out right now. Eternal Radiance, an action JRPG, is out right now. And The Fantastic Paradise Killer, a detective thriller, is coming soon. These can be bought individually, or you can save money if you buy the triple pack. All orders on the One Print Games website come with some nice extra goodies like keychains and manuals. Head over to oneprintgames.com right now to pick up your copies and sign up to their newsletter to make sure you don't miss their exciting new announcements. Supporting them supports us. Now let's begin this list with their actual games, but just to be clear, we're not putting a star rating on these 3 because, let's face it, they're giving us money. I'm giving them 6 stars out of 5, so in order to save whatever dignity I have left, I'm sure you'll understand us not putting a star rating on these games. But I did put them in the list before I asked them to sponsor the video, so yeah, they're good. NeoCab is an interesting adventure visual novel set in a cyberpunk world. You are the last human taxi driver as you pick up passengers, chat with them, balance your personal needs with that of doing a good job, and maybe uncover the secrets behind your friend's recent disappearance. It's rather unique in its gameplay for a visual novel, and it's worth taking a look at, even if visual novels aren't your kind of thing. It is available physically at oneprintgames.com, links are below. Eternal Radiance is an action JRPG with visual novel elements, making it a very unique prospect and pretty much the only one of its kind on this list. Mixing genres makes it accessible to everyone as you play as Celeste, a squire looking to prove her worth as a knight as she goes on an adventure with her friends. You'll get to know the cast very well with their stories and very nicely drawn artwork and character design. And this is balanced well for some hack and slash goodness as you take down scores of monsters. This is one for RPG fans and visual novel fans and is available right now at oneprintgames.com. Paradise Killer is a fine little game, a murder mystery set on a futuristic island. You have to find the killer amongst a cast of highly memorable characters. Explore, find clues. It's one of the lesser strict definitions of visual novels, but if you're in for an intriguing adventure, then it's definitely one to take a look at. This is going to be available physically via One Print Games in Asia. 2064 Read-Only Memories is a cyberpunk adventure game with elements of a visual novel that's set in the same universe as Valhalla. This goes for an old school style inspired by the classics such as Snatcher, and thematically it has all the hallmarks of a cyberpunk narrative as androids begin to take over daily life and you as a journalist try to track down a kidnapped friend. This was released physically by Limited Run Games, but there's also a Japanese release which does play in English after downloading an update. Abyss of the Sacrifice is an adventure visual novel heavy on puzzle elements. It takes place underneath a destroyed city as a group of girls try to escape. It promises plotting, betrayal, survival amongst its tough as nails brain teasers. If you're looking for a zero escape type experience, then this is a nice alternative. There is a physical version of this which is only available in Japan, but it does have English on the cartridge. Links are below if you want to import that, and don't forget we have our discount code SWITCHWATCHTV for 5% off any physical item from PlayAsia. But please remember to click one of our links first, as that also helps support us a lot. AI The Somnium File is a detective mystery story written by Utsukoshi Kotaro, the same writer behind the much-loved Zero Escape series. Just like those games, The Somnium Files presents a really interesting plot with a fantastic final arc. This game also has some puzzle-solving gameplay portions, so if you want a visual novel that demands something more out of you besides pressing the A button, this one might do the job. An easy recommendation for mystery story aficionados. This was released physically and even as a badass collector's edition. Amazon links below to purchase yourself and also support us at the same time. Aokana might honestly have one of the most likable cast of characters ever seen in a visual novel. Not only that, but the story itself is also deeply entertaining. The focus of this one is a fictional sport called Flying Circus, and even though it's completely made up, it still manages to make it exciting and fun to spectate. It's all very light-hearted and wholesome, which makes this title a really enjoyable experience from start to finish. If you want a plot with plenty of humor, romance and thrills, this game is the perfect fit for you. This is available physically and we've popped links below if you want to purchase it. Arcade Spirits is a romantic comedy set in an alternative timeline where arcades still reign supreme. You take a new job in an arcade and meet a colourful cast of characters. Your decisions can affect the fate of your arcade as well as your relationship with the customers. While the artwork may not be the same level as some more premium visual novels on this list, it is still commendable. This is available physically and can be gotten for a decent price. Aviary Attorney, you can imagine the pitch. Phoenix Wright, but with birds and 1800s sketch style artwork. It's a tough sell, but it works brilliantly. Great music, tons of humor, and nice trial segments. The only issue being is that you just wish there was so much more of it to play, because this is a very short title, but hopefully a sequel is in the works. BAKUMATSU RENKA SHINSEGUMI is a remake of a PS2 Otomi visual novel. It's a historical romance game for women, where you become the first female soldier in the Shinsegumi, fight alongside the other soldiers, and, of course, fall in love. To be honest, we don't know a whole lot about this one personally, but the visual novel community seem to hold it in decent regard. It is available physically in Japan with English, and import links are down below. Buried Stars is an adventure game, a murder mystery as a contestant is killed on a TV show. Why and how? Well, that's for you to find out. This is a premium visual novel with fantastic artwork, presentation, and story. It is available physically, but only in South Korea. And it does have English, but good luck finding this one. We're not even going to bother putting a link below since it's almost always permanently out of stock. Bustafellows is a premium Otomi visual novel. Step into the shoes of a strong, smart, gifted journalist in this romantic adventure set in America. After witnessing the murder of a crooked lawyer, you are destined to save him. With the ability to leap into the past for a brief moment and take on the body of another, you must find clues, search for data, and help those around you. This is available physically in both Europe and North America. Cafe Enchante is a premium Otomi visual novel. When Kotone inherits her grandfather's Tokyo cafe, she discovers the shop holds more secrets than anyone could imagine. The cafe is a meeting spot for beings from multiple mystical worlds. You'll meet the king of demons, a humanoid beast, a fallen angel, and more. This is available physically, and of course we put links in the description. Chicken Police is a buddy cop noir adventure that features hilarious humanoids with animal heads. Surprisingly, to go along with it, there's a very nice detective story, and it's a one-of-a-kind experience almost. Somehow, it manages to make the impossible possible. A tale of love, death, and chickens, it's a clucking good time, and is available physically. CINDERS is a mature take on the famous Cinderella story that's all about player choices and shaping the famous fairy tale in any way you like. With beautiful backgrounds, subtle animation, and a nice female lead story, this has got a lot going for it. CLANNAD tells a beautiful story about the struggles of building a family and finding your own path in life. It's an intensely powerful story, and if it resonates with you, it will almost certainly leave a strong, unforgettable emotional impact. Every single character is brilliantly developed with such wonderful depth that it's almost impossible not to care about the tales they have to tell. It is a slow burn, and it takes a while for things to pick up, but once they do, the payoff is worth tenfold. This game is a must own, and most importantly, a must play for anyone who loves great visual novels. It's a masterpiece that shows how incredible visual novels can be. This was released physically in North America with limited run, but the Japanese version also has English if you fancy that. CLANNAD Side Stories is a compilation of short stories that take place before, during, and after the events of the main game. These stories surround all the side characters, with quite a few of these stories taking place from their point of view. If after finishing CLANNAD you want to see more of these characters, which, let's be honest, you probably will considering how fantastic they all are, then this game will be a really nice companion piece to the main game. This is only available physically in Japan, but it does have English. Alright, it's time for me to tag out for a bit. Juan baby, help me out. But before we do that, remember we are giving away Nintendo Switch OLED model to one of our subscribers once we get to 100k of you. So if you're not subscribed yet, do it. You might win. Alright, I'm out for a bit.
Hey everyone, thanks Jordan. Let's keep this ultimate video rolling. Next up we got Code Realize Guardian of Rebirth, Future Blessings, Wintertide, Miracles. There are 3 Code Realize games on the Switch, the original Guardian of Rebirth, plus 2 fan discs, Future Blessings, and the most recent Wintertide, Miracles. These are premium Otome or Otome visual novels, each available physically. In the original, our heroine carries a deadly poison, not allowing her to touch a soul. Soon she breaks free from her secluded life to find her missing father. All 3 of these are available on the physical cartridge, and we're going to have links below where you can buy them. Coffee Talk is a relaxing take on the formula laid out by Valhalla, although not coming close to its excellence. Here you mix drinks for a variety of coffee shop customers and get to know them. The concept is nice, the soundtrack is chill, but the characters lack the charm here. Still, it's an okay experience, a strictly limited released version in Europe, but it's also available in Japan with English. Color X Malice and its fan disc Color X Malice Unlimited are 2 very commendable Otome visual novels. Unlike most Otomes, this one has a slightly darker, more serious side, as you're a cop who's been saddled with a poisonous collar that can go off at any time. Follow clues, do some Phoenix Wright style investigation, and you've got yourself some of the best Otomes in the business. Just remember, you need to play them in order. If you play Unlimited first, you're going to be very lost indeed. They are both available physically. Cupid Parasite is a recently released Otome visual novel, as you're a female working for a dating agency. Apparently you're a bit of a star, but in this game you've got your hands full with 5 seemingly hopeless candidates to help out. You need to prove your reputation in a reality TV show, and this is of course available physically. DAEDALUS, The Awakening of Golden Jazz is probably not close to being the best visual novel on the list, and we almost cut it out. Were it not saved by the fact it has an obscure English physical release in Asia. This is a hard-boiled detective adventure game as you set out to find out why your grandfather was killed. Sadly, could have done with a better mystery, as the culprit is almost instantly apparent. Danganronpa Decadence is a compilation of the Danganronpa Trilogy. Jesus, Jordan, some of the stuff he's put in here for me to pronounce, and I'm not the best, so forgive me if my pronunciation is wrong. But this one is a game board spin-off called Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp. The Danganronpa story begins with you waking up trapped inside a school alongside a cast of other characters. And the only way to get outside is by murdering one of the others without being found out. Damn. However, once a murder has occurred, a trial will take place, and if the murderer is found out, he will be executed. Conversely, if the wrong person gets accused, everyone except the actual murderer will get executed. This absurd in all the right ways, entertaining setting that will keep you guessing what's truly going on for the entirety of the trilogy, and this Switch release will be the best way to experience them. It's also available physically. Hell yeah! Deathmark is a great horror visual novel that revolves around the urban legend of people who receive a strange mark and are sure to die. Anyone seen the film? What did you think of it? With a well-crafted story here and engaging dialogue, your investigation even includes some nice gameplay elements as you fend off death. One of the stronger horror visual novels out there. We've even included it in our top 100 horror games on the Switch list, which you should check out after this one. It's also available physically. Doki Doki Literature Club is a completely normal, happy and wholesome story where absolutely nothing out of the ordinary happens. Yep, but now for real. If you have somehow managed to avoid getting spoiled on this one, go check it out. While its actual uniqueness is a slightly controversial topic, within the VN community, there's no denying that this is a fun ride worth experiencing. The visual novel itself isn't that long, but this Switch release includes some new side stories which expands on the relationship of these characters, and it's also available physically if you fancy it. ELIZA is a visual novel developed by none other than Zachtronics, the same Zachtronics that brought you those head-splittingly difficult puzzle games like Spatium, Infinifactory or Opus Magnum. This time, however, they ventured into the VN genre with a story about social issues like mental health and artificial intelligence. To which extent can it truly replace us? This is more of a reflexive story, making it stand out from most visual novels on this list. Definitely not for everyone, but if you're looking for something that might leave you thinking for a while, then check this one out. In Famicom Detective Club The Missing Heir and Famicom Detective Club The Girl Who Stands Behind are remakes of rather old Famicom games developed and published by no other than Nintendo themselves. These are mystery stories where you have to solve murders and find the real culprit. The first one, The Missing Heir, takes place in a rural village where the protagonist wakes up near a cliff having lost his memories, but he soon learns that he was appointed to investigate a strange death that happened in his village. The second game, The Girl Who Stands Behind, is actually a bit of a prequel, with its events taking place before the first game. In this game, you are just starting out as a detective and must investigate the death of a schoolgirl found near a waterway. These games are rather old, so some of its gameplay might feel a bit antiquated and repetitive, but the stories themselves are deeply enjoyable with memorable characters and some plot twists that will make you wonder if these games are truly that old. Fantasy Tavern SEXTET Volume 1 to 3, well, this premise is rather simple. While its story isn't going to set the world on fire, it's enjoyable enough for those looking for a laid-back plot. It has high-quality art with animated sprites and plenty of culture for those wanting a game to play when nobody's around. Fatal 12 is a story which starts with your death, unsurprisingly. You're given the chance of cheating your death by a goddess who invites you to take part in a ritual called Divine Selection, as you compete with 11 others who also lost their lives too early. You have to eliminate the other contestants by gathering information about them. It's a visual novel filled with very memorable supporting characters, even if the main protagonist is a little bit on the bland side. It also has some very nicely drawn artwork and was made available physically by Limited Run Games. Fault Milestone 1 and its sequel Fault Milestone 2 side above are two shortish visual novels, each one around 5 to 6 hours, that take place in a unique fantasy setting rich with world building and interesting locales. Each plot focuses on one or two characters and develops them nicely with satisfying conclusions. That being said, this is an ongoing series, so it's probably better to think of these games as arcs inside a bigger story rather than complete stories on their own. The first game was released physically by Limited Run Games. Food Girls is a super adorable visual novel business management hybrid that has you consulting on a failing food street in Taiwan with 3 girls to help. This offers a cute cast of characters, interesting premise and nice artwork with a small gameplay gimmick. Highly enjoyable if you check out our review. It's available physically in Asia and Japan with standard editions as well as collector's editions, and they have English. Links are below for those. Ladies and gentlemen, really enjoyed today. Hope you have too. That's it from me. I'm tagging Jordan back, and I'll see you on the next Ultimate List.
Thanks very much, my man. Now, before we continue, thank you to our YouTube members who helped vote for the thumbnail on this video. I made about 6 thumbnails for the video and I whittled them down to 3, and then those who are YouTube members voted for the one that you saw before clicking this video. So thanks for that, and thanks for your support. We will do this more in the future, I'm sure. And if you want to join them, head over and you can do that for the lowest tier. Nausea is one of the most interesting visual novel releases in recent times. Actually, calling it a visual novel might be slightly misleading, since this game has a surprising amount of gameplay. It's a single-player werewolf mafia-style game with RPG elements, all the while still telling a fascinating science fiction mystery story about humanism and existentialism. It's a unique and unconventional blend, but the gameplay mechanics make it work wonderfully. It also has a really charismatic cast of characters that rival anything you would see in a Danganronpa game, for example. There is some repetition to it, but overall this game is still 100% worth playing. If anything, because there's nothing remotely similar out there, and must play for science fiction fans. Grisaya Phantom Trigger are episodic visual novels. There are currently many on the Nintendo Switch on the eShop, but 1 to 5 are bundled together physically on a cartridge in English, but only in Japan. These are bite-sized in nature but packing plenty of quality with sharp artwork and nice character development. These are considered separate from the main Grisaya trilogy, but are worth playing even if the quality isn't quite as high as those. If My Heart Had Wings is a very charming visual novel with plenty of humour and heartfelt romance. The story surrounds a high school glider club and their attempts and struggles to soar the skies. One of the strongest points of this visual novel is possibly its disability representation, having the main girl being in a wheelchair, which is something you don't see that often, neither in visual novels or in games in general. Her route and character development is fantastic and well worth experiencing. Also, there's a duck with a top hat, so what else could you ask for? This was available physically exclusive to Play Asia. At the time of writing, there were a handful of copies of the collector's edition left, but maybe not by the time this video is edited together. Island is a science fiction visual novel by the same developer that brought you the Grisaya series. It tells an intriguing story that's filled with twists and turns that will keep you guessing what's truly going on right until the very end. If you're looking for a game with a plot that's impossible to predict, you really can't go wrong here. The Switch release comes with an epilogue, making this the definitive version of the game, and it is available physically in Japan with English language options. Links are below to grab a copy for yourself. Please check out our review if you need more information about what's going on here. Kosho Tengai no Hashihime is one of the highest rated BL, which means boy love, games out there. It's a mystery story with great and unique atmosphere set in the Taisho era around 1922. The protagonist is an aspiring novelist, if a bit of a slacker, that enjoys indulging in his own fantasies. However, he then finds himself wrapped up in a series of mysterious murders, and to make matters worse, he realizes he is repeating the same 3 days over and over. If you enjoy a story out of left field, then this might be a nice wild ride. This is releasing physically in Japan with English language options. Order links are below. Imagine if you took all the slice of life and romantic scenes from Fate Stay Night and condense them into a 3-hour story. Well, that's Kokoro Days in a nutshell. Even the main girl looks just like Saber. It might not be the most original plot out there, but if you're into romantic comedies with the occasional fan service, then this one might be a decent way to spend an afternoon. Little Busters is one of the highest rated visual novels developed by the legendary Key. Just like Clannad, it tells an emotional story that will assuredly tug at your heartstrings over and over. The main theme of this story is friendship, with the protagonist slowly opening up to his friends and understanding the strengths those bonds can bring. It's a wonderful tale about overcoming loneliness filled with sincerity and emotion. It might take a while to reach the true ending, but rest assured, it's not an easy to forget conclusion. Plus it has a baseball minigame that has no right being as fun as it is. This definitely is a must play for any visual novel fan. This is available physically in Japan with English language options. There are 3 LoveKami games on the Switch: Divinity Stage, Healing Harem, and Useless Goddess, all of which are short enough visual novels which deal with Japanese goddesses. Here you'll be interacting with busty, scantily clad goddesses with humour and some lewd elements, making them not suitable for a younger audience, but they are nicely produced with crisp, clean artwork. These are made by the same publisher as the fantastic If My Heart Had Wings, and while they aren't quite in the same league, many people will probably prefer the fan service on offer here. They have recently been made available physically via a Play Asia exclusive release with all 3 games in the series bundled together into one affordable package. In fact, the standard edition is cheaper than buying all 3 games on the eShop, but there's also a limited edition which will be in stock for the time being, but with just 2,000 units, I wouldn't wait around. That comes with a double soundtrack CD, baby. Pre-order links are below. Love Esquire is a cheeky little visual novel that's mixed in with a JRPG. Full of tongue-in-cheek humor, you are a lowly squire who's desperate to get his end away before he has to go to war. 5 dateable waifus, turn-based RPG combat, excellent animation, and some mature content. This has got a lot going for it. It's going to be available physically, and pre-orders are now open as it's an exclusive to Play Asia in a standard edition and a collector's edition that comes with a soundtrack CD. Get it before it goes. My Tetsu Pure Station is kind of an infamous visual novel. While it starts off with a cute story about girls and trains, the romance sections can leave some people feeling a little bit awkward, especially due to the seemingly low, young age of the girls involved. I believe one would call this a lolly visual novel, and while there's no explicit scenes in this cleaned up version for consoles, people are still gonna feel uncomfortable at times, even when there's a lovely story under the hood. Be warned before you go in. This is available physically with English as an import exclusive from Japan or Asia. Purchase links are below. Murder by Numbers is a hybrid of visual novel and Picross. Yes, the famous number puzzle game helps you uncover evidence in murder scenes. Who'd have thought that? Here we have a bright, colourful, personality-filled game that fans of either genre will enjoy. This was released physically in Asia as a Play Asia exclusive with a standard edition and collector's edition. Links are below to import it for yourself and get our nice discount, of course. But don't hang about because the collector's edition is already sold out and there's only a few standard editions left. The Nekopara games are wholesome, if a bit lewd, visual novels involving catgirls and maid uniforms, which pretty much, it already says what type of stories these are. They aren't really anything to write home about, but if you're looking for something less serious with some risque elements that can be enjoyable, just make sure you don't play these in public. Nightshade is a premium otome visual novel set in the Sengoku period of Japan, samurais and ninjas. It's not the most light-hearted of otomes out there, but it's got a great art style to it. Fans of otome visual novels have praised this one a lot. With 2 endings for each of the 5 main candidates, it has a decent amount of well-produced content. It is available physically, but only in Japan, and it does have English, so it's right for an import if you got the moolah for it, cause it ain't cheap. Nin Nin Days tells an endearing fish out of water story, but instead of a fish we have a cute ninja who after leaving her village is trying to fit in with modern society while causing the occasional headache for our main protagonist. It might be a slightly derivative story, but it's still full of charm and amusing moments. Nurse Love Addiction and Nurse Love Syndrome are 2 Yuri visual novels set in the same universe. Girl-on-girl action set in the medical world. They're both very decent if you're into the genre, with cute designs for the characters and a very bright design overall. They are bundled together in a physical version called Nurse Love Obsession, which was released in North America, and there are purchase links below if you fancy that. It's actually quite a lot cheaper than buying them individually on the eShop. Our World is Ended is a comedy sci-fi visual novel where the AR world that your team is creating bleeds into the real world. It has some fine artwork and design, although the story and jokes don't always land. There's no romance here as it focuses on the issue at hand, but the constant pervy jokes from the main characters may get rather tiresome after a while. That's not to say there isn't some merit here, since there is. This is available physically in Europe and North America thanks to P-Cube. The Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy is a collection of 3 legendary adventure games where you play as Phoenix Wright, an up-and-coming lawyer who somehow manages to find himself time and time again in the most unlikely yet intriguing murder mysteries. It's your job to solve the case and find the real culprit, all the while interacting with a large cast of charismatic, memorable, and occasionally slightly weird characters. Over the years, this series has gathered a huge following, and that's for a good reason. These games are full of unforgettable scenes and unexpected plot twists. The combination of light gameplay elements alongside the fascinating stories make this a great starting point for those interested in the genre, and this package might be the best way to experience these classics. This is available physically, but only in Japan. However, that physical version does have English, so if you want to import a copy, then we've put links below in the description. Piofiore Fated Memories is a romance-heavy mature otome visual novel that's set in early 1900s Italy. Here you navigate organizations filled with intrigue and betrayal as 3 crime families fight for honor and control. There's decent production value gone into this one, as per usual with anything published by Axis in the West. This is available physically in both Europe and North America. Planetarian is a short kinetic visual novel developed by Key. However, don't let its length fool you. Its short runtime manages to deliver a strong and emotional story about the relationship between a downhearted scavenger and a kind robot who wants to show him the wonders of the stars. It all takes place in a post-apocalyptic setting that wonderfully accentuates all of the plot themes. It's a fantastic visual novel if you wish to play something with a great story that won't take weeks to finish. Alright, it's time to tag in Jim Dog. Take it away, James.
Many thanks, Jordan. How you doing, everyone? It's James here. Now, first up for me, Raging Loop tells a really interesting story set in an isolated rural town in Japan that has a dark tradition in which our protagonist gets tangled up. Speaking of which, Raging Loop's protagonist is a remarkably well-written character with a pragmatic personality that carries the plot forward in ways that will surely catch you off guard more than once. Overall, a great mystery horror story that you won't want to put down until you finish it. This is available physically, and as always, links are below in the description. ReZero Starting Life in Another World, The Prophecy of the Throne is an adaptation of the anime to a visual novel. Throwing in some small gameplay elements alongside new characters and scenes, this is one for fans of the anime. Following Subaru as he settles into life in this new world, you'll see new and familiar faces in a battle for the throne. Not everyone is as they seem, however. An imposter is among you. Robotics Notes is currently the third main entry in the science adventure series of visual novels. The story follows a group of high school students struggling to keep their robotics club alive. Unlike STEINS, this one has a heavier emphasis on the slice of life moments. But just like any other game in the series, the main cast is deeply charming and likeable. However, it is recommended to play earlier games from the science adventure series, either STEINS or Chaos Child, before jumping into Robotics Notes, since its strongest aspects is its ties to the past entries. But if that's not a possibility for you, the game is still well worth it and enjoyable as its own standalone story. Robotics Notes Dash is a direct sequel to Robotics Notes. It takes place half a year after the events of the main game, but this time the story focuses on each member of the club rather than a big overarching story. It also has some crossover characters with STEINS, more notably having Daru appear as one of the main characters. While as an individual entry in the science adventure games, Robotics Notes Dash might fall slightly below expectations, it is a nice follow-up to the original title. Elite and Dash are available physically together in a really nice double pack. Root Double is a science fiction visual novel directed by Nakazawa Takumi, better known for the visual novel cult classics the Infinity Trilogy games. The plot is about a group of people trapped inside a research facility that's on the verge of collapsing. With very little time left, they must work together to escape that dreadful situation. It's a complex and well thought out story filled with mystery and unexpected revelations. If you are tired of waiting for the Zero Escape games to finally be ported to the Switch, this might be the perfect alternative. This is available physically as well. Root Film is a follow-up to Root Letter. This time you play as Yagumo Rintaro, a young filmmaker trying to make a name of his own in the industry. However, he finds himself entangled in a series of murders that he must solve alongside the help of his reliable, if slightly sassy, assistant. While at first the cases might seem completely unrelated, it all comes together in the story's conclusion. It might not be a mind-blowing story, but it is still a really enjoyable detective mystery visual novel, and this one is also available physically. Root Letter is the first game, and like its sequel, it's a detective visual novel as you arrive in a town in search of a pen pal from 15 years back who seemingly disappeared. It's a fascinating premise that doesn't always work, but it's really still an enjoyable game. This includes new visuals with real-life pictures and actors instead of hand-drawn art, which is really nice. This one is available physically. Seabed is one of the better regarded Yuri visual novels out there. It's a really interesting and unique story that delves deep into human psychology themes. The plot follows Mizuno Sachiko, a girl that has been looking for her partner who mysteriously disappeared without a trace. It's important to keep in mind that this is a kinetic novel, so there are no choices to be made, and its slow pacing and extensive prose might be a put-off for some. But if you can look past that and let yourself become immersed in this world, it will deliver a story that's like nothing out there. At the time of writing this, there are a very low amount of standard physical versions left of this PlayAsia exclusive. We'll pop links below, hopefully they haven't sold out just yet. Beware the Creeping Horror. Spirit Hunter NG is the companion piece to the previously mentioned Deathmark. This is a visual novel in which players follow a young man trapped in a life or death game while he searches for his missing little sister. As players explore back alleys and city outskirts, they engage in dialogue and action choices that affect the story's outcome. This is a very graphic visual novel that features disturbing imagery. Oh yes, this is a nice little horror title. Like its predecessor, this is available physically with some rather creepy box art. Steam Prison is an Otome visual novel. This is a premium one. It has great artwork and plenty of style. If you're looking for a steampunk visual novel, then this is definitely one to put on your list. There's a physical version available, but only in Japan. It has English on the cartridge, so it is fine for importing. Links are below if you want to import this one for yourself. Steins Gate Elite is a re-release of one of the most beloved visual novels out there. This release uses clips from the anime adaptation, giving each scene a more dynamic presentation to them. As for the game itself, it's the most famous title in the science adventure series of visual novels, but you don't need to worry about missing much because it's the best entry point into this fantastic series. It's a science fiction story filled with mystery and conspiracies that will keep you right to the edge of your seat until you finish it. And let me tell you, its true ending is really something to behold. If you love visual novels and haven't played this one yet, what are you waiting for? This is available physically and you should definitely pick this one up. Steins Gate Zero is more or less a follow-up to the original story. It features just as much mystery, science fiction and intrigue as its parent game. It's better not to give too much into detail here about this story because it would contain spoilers from the original Steins Gate, so don't let that Zero fool you. You should play this one after finishing Steins Gate. All you need to know is that this one is worth experiencing if you love the first game. Steins Gate My Darling's Embrace is a romantic comedy spin-off of the original Steins Gate. Of course, none of its contents are actually canon, but it's a fun game full of sweet and amusing situations that will satisfy any fan of the original who was left wanting a bit more light-hearted romance out of that story. Synergia is a cyberpunk visual novel. It released with a raft of technical problems as you'll see in our review, but now has mostly been fixed to provide a short, sweet cyberpunk Yuri visual novel with some great artwork and nice synth soundtrack. I think a physical Switch version is planned once the free DLC is released as well. The Fox Awaits Me is a short visual novel set in a folklore-inspired world. Featuring a small cast of characters, this furry-infused mystery is decent, but not one of the top visual novels available on the system. This is available physically only in Japan, but don't worry, that has English as well, so you can import it, and links are in the description below. Alright, thanks very much everyone. Now, back over to you, Jordan.
Okay, it's the final push. Let's do this, guys. The Great Ace Attorney is the much anticipated follow-up to the Ace Attorney series. Originally released exclusively in Japan on the 3DS, these two games are set around the end of the Meiji period, making these a prequel to the main series. In them you play as Naruhodo Ryonosuke, who is the ancestor of Phoenix Wright, and just like him, it will be your job to solve the most unsolvable mysteries. However, unlike the original games, these try for a much more consistent and overarching plot, which gives the game a more grandiose feeling. They also bumped up the production values considerably, with great use of 3D models as well as a banging soundtrack. And while this package might only have 2 instead of 3 games when compared to the other Ace Attorney collection, this duology has as much if not more content than the original trilogy, giving this package great value for the price. This is not only a must play but also one of the best adventure games released in this generation of consoles. This was released physically in North America but not Europe, sadly. European people, I've popped links below for you to purchase. The same could be said for the Grisaya trilogy. This is 3 visual novels in one, making it a huge amount of content, over 100 hours of top quality work from Front Wing. There's some great in-depth characters here, and it presents one of the top tier examples on the Nintendo Switch. What makes this visual novel really stand out is all of the character interactions between the protagonist and the girls. The way this character develops is truly outstanding. At first, this game might seem nothing more than a trite high school story, but there's so much more going on once you start getting into it. This is also available physically in Japan with English subtitles, but the price ain't cheap. The House in Fata Morgana might be one of the best stories ever told in a video game, let alone in a visual novel as a whole. It's a perfect blend between mystery, horror, and romance, all within a beautiful gothic art style and incredible soundtrack. It has some adult and really dark themes, but it deals with them with a degree of maturity not usually seen in this medium. This release also includes the fan disc as well as a collection of short stories featuring the characters from the main game. If you have any interest in this genre, you should absolutely, without a doubt, play this one. Even if visual novels aren't your thing, you should still play this game. It is the greatest visual novel on the Switch that money can buy, a masterpiece of all masterpieces. This was available physically in North America via limited run. Sadly, the Japanese version did not have English. The Letter, a horror visual novel, may have a generic sounding name, but it's actually, supposedly, a very solid visual novel that actually gets really scary. At the time of writing, this may or may not release on the Switch, but it was very positively received on Steam. This is going to be available physically, but limited to Play Asia as an exclusive, so it may not be in stock long. Links are below if you want to secure a standard or a collector's edition for yourself, like I have done. I've already pre-ordered mine. The Silver Case 2425 is a double pack featuring 2 noir mystery novels written by the legendary Suda51. While they may show its age here and there, the way Suda writes its characters feels just as fresh as ever. They all talk in a convincingly crude manner that makes each interaction deeply entertaining. These stories are also tied to some of his other work like Killer 7 and even No More Heroes, so fans of Suda51 should absolutely consider picking these up. This is available physically and links are below. Tomoyo After It's a Wonderful Life is a continuation of the Tomoyo route from the original Clannad. It tells the struggles between Tomoyo and Tomoya trying to find their place in society. Similarly to Clannad, it's a story that focuses on family as well as parental themes. If you want a story that tugs at your heartstrings, then look no further. This is available physically in Japan and has English on the cartridge, making it an easy import. Links are below. Just like Ninin Days and Kokoro Days, Trouble Days is a romantic comedy story about a boy whose life just gets thrown into chaos after a slightly problematic girl appears. Out of all of the 3 games, this is probably one that leans the heaviest into fan service, since the main girl is actually a succubus. Just like the other games in the series, it's nothing to write home about. In fact, it's probably a good idea not to tell your parents that you're playing this, but for what it is, it's rather decent, so if you like what you see, then maybe you'll enjoy it. Valhalla is a really chill visual novel where you play as a bartender serving drinks while listening to your regulars and the stories they tell. It's all set in a cyberpunk world with a really nice looking and detailed old school pixel art style. Words cannot describe how comfy and relaxing this whole game is. Not only that, but all the characters you meet are instantly likable, making this game an incredibly pleasant experience. It's a strong recommendation for anyone who wants an engaging and charming cyberpunk story. This was made available physically in North America via limited run games, but there's also a Japanese version with nice artwork that plays in English. Links are below for that. Will, A Wonderful World is an inventive visual novel where you basically play as a god and can change people's fate. Prepare for some hard-hitting topics as you try to change the lives of those who request it by rearranging sentences. Will you make their lives better or worse? The cover art may look cutesy and harmless, but my god, are you going to be reading some messed up crap from people in distress, and the end result may not always be satisfactory. This is available physically. World End Economica Complete is a 3-part series of science fiction thriller visual novels written by the same author behind the Spice and Wolf Light visual novels. As such, you can expect this title to have some deep economical themes. It's an interesting commentary on capitalism, well worth a read if anything because of how unique it is in its theme and setting. World End Syndrome is a mystery visual novel that follows the story of a high school student that moves to a small coastal rural town. However, that town is home to a mysterious legend where the dead come back to life every 100 years to attack the living. It's an interesting story, maybe one that could have done with a more streamlined approach to its root system, but an enjoyable title nevertheless, especially if you're looking for a mystery story. This was released physically in Europe and fetches high prices these days. Yumiya Tutu has 2 visual novels on the Switch, Remaster, the main story, and Re-After, a sort of extended epilogue as such. Here we have very charming Yuri visual novels where the main character joins a video game development company and tries to reconnect with her estranged sister, all the while dating half the female staff. Very nice, great artwork, interesting story. There is the physical version available in Japan, which has English, so it's prime for a physical import. Links are below with our discount code if you want to order it. Yuno is a remake of one of the most influential visual novels ever made. It basically paved the way for future visual novels with its innovative narrative structure and well thought out story. In other words, the majority of visual novels in this list would not exist if it weren't for Yuno. It's a sci-fi mystery story with time-traveling elements as well as some romance here and there. This remake also features an in-game hint system that alleviates all the annoyances the original might have had. While the story might not feel as groundbreaking as it did back then, it still holds up remarkably well. If you're interested in visual novels as a genre and its origin, this title is a must. It's also available physically if you want to own a cartridge. Are you still here? Well, if you are, what a legend you are. I don't think I'm even still here. I mean, my voice isn't here, you can hear that. If you watched all the way through, well, you must really like visual novels. If you are one of those 1% of people who stuck to the end, I want to know who you are. As this video is all about visual novels, leave me a book emoji in the comments, then I can spot the legends amongst you. Thanks to Miguel Marin, as always, for his input in writing and researching some of these entries, in fact, quite a lot of these entries with me, and also thanks to our executive producers, Dane Wilkinson, God of Resin, Boombox, Brent McLean, Jonathan Rumo, Santa Tartaruga, Alexander Cato, J Cross 7776, Elisa, Punky Dooster, Michael Del Polito, Cartoon Soren, Jack Severus, Velos, Robotech, Z, Raven Knight, Thorn, Metal Luna, and Parsnip Coffee. Thank you for your amazing support, and check out some of our other content. We got lots of ultimate lists like horror, Metroidvanias, and of course physical import exclusives, many of which featured in today's episode. We'll see you guys over there. Have a good one.